municipal reserve be taken as money in place of land for a total of $29,000 based on policy POL-010-23, which indicates that irrigated land outside of an IDP area is valued at $10,500 per acre. Option 2 would be that the 10% municipal reserve requirement be deferred by caveat, and this could be deferred either on the remnant parcel or on the parcel that's created, and the actual acreage to be determined at the time of finalization. So the deferment would mean that it would become applicable should further subdivision happen in the future. If it's deferred on the remnant parcel, then if a pivot corner, say, is proposed to be subdivided in the future, then this municipal reserve will become applicable in addition to the land that is also being subdivided. If it's deferred to the remnant parcel, then if it's deferred to the proposed parcel, then it would become applicable should this proposed parcel ever come into further subdivision. So it is recommended that MPC approve with the conditions that the 7.76 acre parcel be subdivided with the conditions considered, and then the reserve is at the decision of MPC.
Thank you, Maria. Mr. Watson, would you like to add anything to that?
Sale of, this is to accommodate the sale of the irrigated cultivated acres on that quarter. We own the quarter north of that as well. We're selling it to the guy who has been farming it for several years, and his son is now taking over, and they're good neighbors, and we appreciate them. It's kind of to accommodate so Valerie and I can stay on the place and still have cattle and not bother people. And the subdivision next to us is my daughter, who built there about 10 years ago. We didn't anticipate at that time that we would ever sell land, but this is a good option for us right now. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Watson? Lynette.
When we've looked at other subdivisions, and then sometimes we go back when they're doing other things and we try and straighten things out, why are the lines not straight, right? Like, why didn't we go straight out to the pivot center, right? Why is there crooked and then there's another little piece that goes across the top? It just, I don't know, it makes dividing lines hazy.
Okay. That's a good question. The reason it's not perfectly square is because it covers exactly the acres that the pivot covers, the wetted acres of the land. And for him to access the pivot point, he goes up the fence line on his side, and then he has to kind of move over a bit to stay off his cultivated acres to get to the pivot point. So that's the best for them. And we graze so that little pie-shaped piece that the pivot doesn't cover is very beneficial to us and is of no use to them. Does that satisfy your curiosity there?
It's the reason right now, but I'm talking in the future when things change, then that's when we have to fix things and whatnot, right? So the uses might not all stay the same.
I suppose that's a possibility. We've never anticipated that. I don't know what to say. As of now, this is the way it'll be until we die. That's the plan.
Arno?
Yeah, thank you. Just with regard to the municipal reserve, do you have a preference one way or the other? I mean, my inclination would be to defer it. What's the precedent, and what's your preference on that, I guess, is my question.
Me? Obviously to defer it. This is a surprise to us when we applied for the subdivision. I still don't quite understand what that money is for. But yes, we definitely, our preference would be to defer it.
Maria?
In regards to what the precedence is, generally we would recommend a payment of a municipal reserve. However, this is a much larger subdivision than we typically see. There was a large subdivision presented to MPC last meeting or 2 meetings ago, and that was deferred. And again, that was based on the parcel size. There could be consideration given to larger parcels like this that they do have the potential to be subdivided further in the future. As land values go up, the municipal reserve payment or the benefit to the county will increase over the years. So that would be a consideration.
I believe the one that we deferred before was Lake Newell Resort. The thinking being, I believe Greg had said that was good potential for development. I'm questioning whether the same thing as development potential on this piece as a reason to defer it. Because it wouldn't, if it was sold in the future, it would not trigger it, only if it is developed further. Is that correct, Maria?
That's correct.
Thank you. Ellen?
But not just then, right? Let's say another corner was considered to be subdivided, that would trigger it then as well, correct?
Maria?
Yes, so MPC has the ability to defer it, to decide to defer it either to the remnant parcel. If it's on the remnant parcel, then if a pivot corner is subdivided, then this would come into effect. If it's a caveat put on the proposed parcel, then it's when the proposed parcel is subdivided further. So that's a good consideration for MPC. Does that make sense?
Can you
Do you want
can you speak a little more to that?
further clarify?
Okay, so should MPC approve this subdivision, then there will be 2 titles created, 2 new titles, one for the remainder of the southwest of 26 and another one to show that 27.76 acres. So on this caveat will be put on one of those titles, not both. So if it's on the title of the southwest of 26, then if there's a subdivision proposed for that quarter, we would review the title, see that this deferred caveat is on it, and then that would flag that. Similarly, with the proposed parcel, we would just review that title for the caveat.
Arno?
And whose decision is it with regard to where this municipal reserve would be deferred to? Is it the landowner, or is it council's decision in some way?
Maria?
That can be the decision of the Municipal Planning Commission. So it can go to either parcel by your decision.
Dan?
So, if I'm understanding it correctly, there's already the smaller subdivision on the, with your daughter's place. That's already subdivided out. That was the first one, and now this being the second one has triggered the municipal reserve, right?
Maria?
The MGA states that the first parcel out of the quarter section is exempt from the municipal reserve payment. So the second one is what triggers it.
Then follow up, what would the reserve have been had it been charged on the smaller one? Just for curiosity's sake for me.
Significantly less. So it would be, I think that parcel is 5 acres? 3 acres? Okay, so 3 acres times 10,500 and then 10% of that. So $1,000 or whatever that adds up to. Oh, I shouldn't have said that on. That's proving my poor math skills.
Arno?
Oh, no.
Oh. Adina. Okay, go ahead, Adina.
I'm just wondering, Maria, your condition about the septic system, what is our protocol as far as following up on that?
So with other subdivisions that have pump outs or some other sort of system that doesn't have a current PSDS inspection completed, we just require that they have inspector come and ensure that it meets the Alberta Safety Code at the time. So in some instances, if there is a pump out, but now the property lines don't allow for that, for the setbacks to be maintained, then that applicant may have to put in a septic field. In this case, a very quick review looks like it does meet the setbacks, but that would have to be determined by our inspection services.
Adina?
So then that's our inspection service and they would report back to us? The inspector would report back to county then?
That's correct. So an application would have to be made by the applicant to have that inspection done. There's a small fee for that service, and then it would be reported back to the county.
Marie, to clarify, you're required to do that or you're suggesting to do that?
I'm suggesting that we do it.
Okay. Arno?
Just another question with regard to the municipal reserve, because it doesn't sit well with me to charge that in a situation like this. Whatever, can we just have a review of what the purpose of the municipal reserve is? And then I've got a follow-up question.
Maria?
So municipal reserve is used for school and park sites. So if we're looking at in an urban context, if a quarter section is developed for residential housing, so say on the outskirts of Calgary, then typically land is given as municipal reserve. So 10% of that quarter section would be put into a school site and park land. So that also translates to the rural context that municipal reserve is required. Council does have an account, I guess, that with money that can be used for those purposes, and that's where this would go.
Arno?
Okay. And so just for clarity, there's two living accommodations on this quarter section now, and if we go through with this, there will be three subdivisions on that, or three owners on that parcel. If the municipal reserve is deferred to the new 27-acre parcel, then it would be only triggered when if that parcel was further subdivided. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and I guess on that basis, it would be logical to me that we defer the subdivision or the municipal reserve to that parcel in the event that it is ever subdivided again, because otherwise we're charging a significant amount of money for something that it seems to me is a little bit misplaced in this particular situation, because it's not creating new demand on the infrastructure that the reserve is targeted towards. So to me, it would make sense to defer it with the new parcel.
Adina?
So I disagree, because we have a policy that you're allowed one subdivision and now we're going to have a second one. So to me, it makes perfect sense that they would pay for a municipal reserve, because they shouldn't be allowed, according to our bylaws, they shouldn't be allowed to have a second subdivision. That's how I see it.
Arno?
Unless we approve it. That's what we're here for. Yeah.
Maybe, Maria, you could expand on what those funds are used for, because I believe that's how the Rolling Hills Ball Diamonds got their shale, right? So can you give us some ideas of what that fund is used for? Or perhaps Matt wants to do that?
Yeah, I'll take that. So yeah, Rolling Hills shale, just funded some shale up at the Ball Diamond and Duchess. You've earmarked some funds to help replace the marina boat launch at Lake Newell Resort. Those types of things. When it comes to the municipal reserve policy, I think this situation highlights an area where it may not make sense to impose the policy as it currently stands. Like when I look at members of the community who have been here, worked their lifetime, and are looking at staying in the community and going through the formal process of subdividing, like $30,000 to get the paperwork in place seems like a pretty tall price to pay for a subdivision that looks to me like it's not going to be your typical urban subdivision where you need municipal reserve to separate conflicting uses. So my mind kind of goes to what we had reviewed at Lake Newell Resort. You have a municipal reserve separating residential and commercial space. This is just rural residential. So myself personally, as an administrator, I think we have some work to do on that municipal reserve, and maybe I just need to be educated, but I would have a hard time recommending anything besides deferring.
Ellen?
You know, I've been here for a while, and over the past many years, we have usually, in this case, deferred it. For exactly the reason you mentioned earlier, Arno. And I would be able to, I'd like to make a motion to approve the subdivision and put the reserve on the 27 proposed acres.
Would you like to include in your motion whether or not you want to have the septic reviewed? Because that needs to be part of it either. So you don't want to include the septic?
Sure, that'd be fine.
So Alan was making a motion that we defer it to the current proposed acreage, which would only be triggered if it is further developed, as opposed to putting it on the rest of the quarter, which would be triggered when it's further developed. Everyone clear on what the motion is? Oh, Dan?
I got one question, and then that's, do we have leeway in how much we charge on municipal reserve, or is it fixed that it's 10,500, 10% of that? Because what I'm going with is, had you known there was municipal reserve and that this was your plan, you certainly would have taken the 27 acres first, and then the 3 acres second, and then that would be a much easier pill to swallow at some bad math, potentially $1,000 versus $30,000. So that's just kind of where my thought process is going on that one. But if we don't have that that autonomy to make those decisions out of the box, then.
Matt?
Yeah, so that'd be back to your municipal reserve policy. Yeah.
Maria?
Right, so the policy does state different values per different areas within the county, and then so that is on agricultural land. Anything not zoned to agriculture would require appraisal done by the applicant.
Okay. If there's no further questions, just to confirm that the motion is that it's deferred on the piece that he's going to live on, not on the rest of the quarter. All right? All right. All in favor? Those opposed? And that is carried. Thank you, Mr. Watson. That was a lengthy one. We're going to move on to 8.2. If Maria's ready, and that is 2024-0-003. Maria, will you take this one too?
You bet. Okay, thank you. This proposal is to subdivide one lot, 4.66 acres in size, from an agricultural parcel containing an existing residence. The subject property is in Division 1, approximately 5 kilometers southwest of Rolling Hills. Access to the proposed parcel is from Range Road 142, and there is also access to the remnant parcel from the same road. There is an existing residence, Quonset outbuilding, and a dugout located on the proposed subdivision. All buildings meet the required setbacks of the land use bylaw. The existing residence is serviced by regional water and a septic tank for wastewater. The wastewater disposal system should be reviewed to ensure that it meets the Alberta Safety Code standard. The applicant has indicated that the dugout shown on the subdivision sketch will be filled in across the property line to remove the encroachment. The existing corrals will be removed from the property. A review of the Alberta wetland inventory indicates there are no wetlands. There are also no environmentally or historically significant areas. There is an abandoned well in the quarter section, but not within the parcel proposed to be subdivided. There were comments received from Alberta Health Services indicating that the abandoned well be appropriately addressed in accordance with AER requirements. However, Alberta Health Services did not have any objections. There were no comments received from adjacent landowners. Internal circulations did make comment on the encroachment of the dugout. So conditions to be considered are that all outstanding property taxes be paid, that the applicant supplies copies of the utility right-of-way plans, easements, and/or agreements, that the encroachment of the dugout be addressed by either removal or by registering an encroachment agreement on the title of the proposed subdivision and the remnant parcel. And again, this was my omission, I apologize for that, but that the septic system be inspected to ensure that it meets the Alberta Safety Code standard. Municipal reserve will not be applicable as this is the first lot created from the quarter section, and it is administration's recommendation that this subdivision be approved with conditions.
Thank you, Maria. Do we have any questions on this one? Lynette.
In all of your documentation, it says dugout. There's two. So are we not addressing both of them? And my other question is, why are the lines all over the place again? Like, why is this not square? They go around an old foundation and they're going around corrals that they say they're going to remove. It just seems so wrong to do it like that. If it gets sold to someone else, the corrals are not there anymore. Why does the line go there? You know, like it just, I don't know. It seems like it's something that's going to have to be fixed later again.
I was wondering if this is because they want to change it all to irrigation, which means it'll all be gone, it'll be irrigated. Is that what they're doing, Maria?
That's correct. These proposed property lines allow for the full pivot circle.
Right, previously it was a pie shape was out, so, okay. All right, any further questions, Arno?
The dugout, thank you, Madam Chairman. The dugout being filled is the one on the south side of the south of the property. Is that correct?
That's correct. I actually could talk to the applicant about that one to the north. I am unsure if that's a dugout or if that's a low area, slough area.
Okay, any further questions for Maria? If Lynette, are you good? Can we go forward? Do you have more questions? Okay, I would entertain a motion if someone's ready to make one. Amanda.
I'll make that motion approved with conditions.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? And carried. Okay, 8.3, subdivision 2024-0-004. Maria.
Thank you. This proposal is to subdivide one lot, 17.41 acres in size, from an agricultural parcel containing an existing residence. The subject property is in Division 6, approximately 6 kilometers northeast of the town of Bizano. The lands are located less than 1.6 kilometers south of Highway Number 1. Access to the proposed subdivision is from Range Road 19-3. The parcel is not included within the Eastern Irrigation District. There is an existing residence, abandoned farmhouse, Quonset shop, and outbuildings located on the proposed parcel. The residence is serviced by county water for potable water and a septic tank and field for wastewater. The setbacks from proposed property lines to the residence meets the standard of the land use bylaw. The shop, Quonset, and abandoned farmhouse are built within the stated setbacks and will require MPC to grant a waiver to the setbacks of the land use bylaw. A review of the Alberta wetland inventory indicates there's no wetlands, there's no environmentally or historically significant areas, and there are no abandoned wells. This was circulated to referrals and adjacent landowners. Alberta Transportation indicated that no variances are required. They do expect that the municipality will mitigate the impacts of traffic generated by developments approved on local road connections to the highway system. Alberta Health Services noted oil and gas and or infrastructure nearby and recommends that any development meets the requirements according to the AER. Alberta Health Services also indicated that there was a water well potentially in the area. However, the applicant gets their water from the rural water system, so I'm not sure that the water well is in effect. There were no comments or objections from adjacent landowners or internal departments. Conditions to be considered are that all outstanding property taxes be paid, utility right-of-ways, easements, or agreements be registered concurrently with the subdivision, that the applicant enters into a development agreement with the county, and again, that the septic system be reviewed by the Alberta to ensure that it meets the Alberta Safety Code standard. Municipal reserve is not applicable as this is the first lot being created from the quarter section, and it is recommended that the subdivision be approved with conditions.
Thank you, Maria. Do we have any questions? Is there a reason the bottom line is not straight? Maria?
There is a well site that runs over here, and this follows that utility right-of-way line that's already surveyed in there.
We are having problems with straight lines. I do agree. They look odd. And again, are they going to come back to bite us? We'd like to see things cleaned up. So was there a reason? So this is to avoid the well site, to get their driveway in and avoid the well site? That was the thinking?
To keep the well on one side, on one property versus the other.
Adina?
I'm just wondering if there's a plan for the abandoned farmhouse on the parcel.
Maria?
Not that I'm aware of. That farmhouse and the other buildings that are too close to the property line were built prior to the land use bylaw. So again, those would become legal non-conforming. Should MPC grant the variance, then they can stay there until there's changes made, and then at that time, it can be dealt with or cleaned up if required.
Arno?
I'm prepared to make a motion to approve if you're ready for that, but I don't want to rush.
I don't know. Do we have any more questions from anyone? It looks like not, so I will entertain your motion, Arno.
I move that we approve this subdivision with the recommended conditions.
Okay. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, is there any other business to discuss? Post-agenda items? Do we have a need for in-camera? Do we have any questions, Catherine? Okay, then I will therefore adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
I'm going to suggest that we take 5 and reconvene just before I'm going to suggest we call this meeting to order. So it being 11 o'clock, we'll call our October the 10th Municipal Council meeting to order. We have two people, both Neil and Kelly, that are attending the RPAP conference. So could we have a motion to excuse them from our meeting? Lynette, thank you. All in favor of that, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. We have the minutes from the September 19th council meeting circulated. Is there any errors or omissions? And if not, a motion to adopt the minutes as presented would be in order. Ellen, motion? All in favor of approving the minutes of the September 19th meeting, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Are there any post-agenda items to be added to the agenda? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. Thank you, Holly. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Question period or notices of motion. Are there any questions? Seeing none online, we'll proceed and move to item number 7.1, bylaws. Maria, you're here to take us through that. Welcome. Thank you. Not at all. Not at all. Don't.
Thank you. The purpose of this application is to designate a 3.2 acre parcel in the southwest of 2116 from Agriculture General District to Residential Rural District to allow for a future subdivision on the quarter section. It is recommended that first reading be given to this bylaw. The subject property is in Division 7, 6 kilometers north of Rosemary. The applicant has applied to subdivide another parcel out of the quarter section. However, the second parcel out of a quarter section cannot be accommodated because of the size of the proposed parcel, which means that the land use amendment is required in order for MPC to allow for the finalization of that subdivision. The first parcel out was subdivided in 2011 and contains a dwelling. The proposed subdivision is 27.76 acres and is more agricultural in nature than the 2011 subdivision, as it includes a dwelling, several outbuildings, a dugout, and pasture land. There are no noted confined feeding operations, and it is not located within 1.6 kilometers of a highway. So it is recommended that council give first reading to this land use amendment.
Thank you, Maria. Are there questions? Go ahead, Adina, please.
I'm prepared to make the motion to give first reading to this bylaw.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item number 7.2, bylaw 2083-24, land use agreement 006.
Thank you. The purpose of this application is to redesignate an approximate 10-acre parcel in the northwest of 1921-14 from Agriculture General District to Agriculture Small Lot District to allow for future subdivision of the quarter section. It is recommended that first reading be given to bylaw 2083-24. The subject property is in Division 8, 6 kilometers north of Dutchess. The applicant would like to subdivide a parcel out of the existing 79.8 acre parcel. However, this is not considered the first parcel out of the quarter section, as the proposed subdivision will be 10 acres, which is greater than the allowable second parcel out as per the subdivision authority bylaw. The land use amendment will allow MPC to consider the subdivision application. The subdivision authority bylaw states that MPC may only approve one subdivision on an unsubdivided quarter section of land within the Ag General District. A second subdivision may be considered provided that the parcel is between 3 and 7 acres. So because this is 10 acres, that's what triggered this land use amendment, as well as it being more than the first parcel out. The quarter section is separated by Highway 36. The east and west side of the quarter are on separate titles. The proposed subdivision will include some agricultural land, a dwelling, and outbuildings. The remnant parcel will be all pasture land. The Ag Small Lot District of the Land Use Bylaw is to allow for flexible parcel sizes based on current agricultural operation requirements and the physical characteristics of the land. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Are there questions? Holly, go ahead, please.
Just to clarify, is this only the second parcel out because it's already split by the 36? Because there's no other development on it, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Seeing, go ahead, Holly.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay. You're approving for first reading, correct? All in favor, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. Let's move on to item. What am I missing? What's next here? 10.1, the road closure, right? Approval to proceed northeast to 6, 18, 13 west of 4, and southwest to 25, 18, 13 west of 4. Go ahead, Maria, please.
Thank you. The purpose of this application is to close the road allowances outlined in the attached maps and lease or sell to the applicant to facilitate new and existing irrigation practices. The subject lands are in Division 2, north of the village of Tilly. All parcels are in the Ag General District. The total road allowance is 1.6 kilometers or 8 acres that is being utilized. The applicant has installed 2 new pivots. The layouts have the pivots encroaching and irrigating over the road allowance. The road closure will not impact legal access to any of the lands adjacent to the proposed road closure. The applicant would like to purchase the road allowance and consolidate it with the remainder of the property. In discussions with the county assessor, the land value for the road closure under the pivot, as determined by him, is $5,500 per acre for a total of $44,000. The value of the road allowance as dry native prairie would be $1,250 per acre for a total of $10,000. The application can also be considered for a road closure and lease, which allows the county to utilize the road allowance in the future if required. Historically, council has not sold road allowances unless alternative access considerations have been made. The application was circulated to internal departments and there were no concerns with the closure and lease of the road allowance. So it is recommended by administration that council move the application be advertised for public hearing as a road closure and lease.
Okay, thank you. Which would be the precursor to selling it in any case, correct? To close it first, yeah.
Yeah, so whether you decide to lease or sell, it needs to be closed and then the rest can happen after that.
Correct, thank you. Any questions? Holly, go ahead, please.
Just to clarify, when you're talking about irrigating road allowances, it's on the north-south as you have on the map, but also on the east. On one of the map, it says a steel encroachment of plus or minus. Is that included as well in the costs? On the EID pivot map I was looking at.
The steel encroachment is actually happening on this portion here is EID right-of-way. So I believe that's, on so where that blue line is, that's EID right-of-way. And then so there's no steel on the south east-west road. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Anyone prepared to make a motion? Lynette, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm prepared to make a motion to, for road closure and lease. Like, oh, do we need both? All right, okay.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried, thank you. Let's move on to item number 10.2, the road closure approval to proceed on the east half of 1, 2016, and the west of 4, and the west of 6, 2015, west of 4.
Thank you. The subject lands are in Division 7, 8.5 kilometers south of Rosemary. All parcels in the area are zoned Agriculture General District. The total road allowance is 1.6 kilometers and includes 8 acres. The portion of road allowance being irrigated is approximately 4 acres. So the current policy does say that roads will be closed from property line to property line. So that's why it includes areas that are not currently being irrigated. The applicant is applying to convert terminable acres to first water rights with the Eastern Irrigation District. The existing pivot is encroaching and irrigating over the road allowance. The road closure will not impact legal access to any of the lands adjacent to the proposed road closure. There are noted wetlands on the road allowance to be closed. The applicant will have to adhere to the Alberta Wetland Policy and the Alberta Water Act if work will be done within the noted wetlands. It is recommended that Council approve this to be advertised for public hearing as a road closure and lease.
Thank you, Maria. Are there any questions? Lynette, go ahead.
It doesn't show where the center of the pivot is. It's not on the road allowance. Kind of looks like it is offset a little bit, but did we make sure of that?
That we can definitely double check, but I do think that it's not located on the road allowance. It's just offset just a little bit.
To me, like that's right. Yeah, that would, as per the picture. Yeah. Any other questions? Or Holly, go ahead.
In your RFD, you don't have a financial amount it would cost the landowner, but they're aware of what the cost would be?
Go ahead, Maria.
This applicant wanted to go with the road closure and lease and didn't want the sale option, so there was no market value determined for this property. But once the road closure is completed, then they will have to pay the lease fees as determined at that time.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Greg, go ahead.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Sure, I accept that, please.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for option 1.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Sure, yeah. Good morning, Joe, and those with you. We're a little ahead of schedule, but do you have your entire delegation here, or are you waiting for some more people to come? You're prepared to We are the delegation. But, pardon me? We are the delegation. Yeah, you are the delegation. That's good. That's what was my question. Come on forward. Welcome. Let's start with introductions. Yeah, have a chair. Go ahead. And we'll introduce ourselves so that everybody knows everybody.
Reese is in charge of this organization.
Okay, welcome.
My name's Joe Comestic. I'm the grant writer for the EID Historical Park.
I'm Rosalind Van Hall. I'm secretary for the EID Historical Park. And I'm Reese Chandler, and I'm president.
Welcome. And we'll introduce ourselves as well. Go ahead, Amanda, please.
Good morning, everyone. Amanda Philpott, Division 8, Duchess.
Good morning, Ellen Andra, and I represent the Division 7 around the village of Rosemary.
Good morning. Good to see you. Greg Screever, Division 5, Lake New Resort and Castles area.
Welcome again. I'm Arno Dirksen from Division 9, the gym area.
Welcome, Matt Fensky, Chief Administrative Officer.
Hi, guys. Holly Johnson, Division 4.
Hello, Adina Scandrip, Division 2, the area around the hamlet, including the hamlet of Tilly.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Dan Short from Division 1, Rolling Hills.
Hi, I'm Lynette Kopp, Division 3, Patricia Millicent area.
Catherine Siakla, Communications Officer.
Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Sandra Stanway, Brooks Bulletin.
And we have Lane Johnson in the back and Mr. Todd Green in the far corner. Who's leading here? Mr. Comistic? Joe, welcome. Just hit that button in front of you and that'll turn the red light on and that'll light everybody.
That one? Does that mean you can hear me? Excellent. So would you like me to provide a short summary?
Yeah, we'd appreciate that.
So we are here to ask for some assistance in doing some renovations. I have to switch glasses because I either can read and then you're in a blur, or I can look at you and see all of you clearly and not read. So in any event, the request is for 50% of the funds required to do renovations to the Scania elevator. This iconic building has been supported and maintained by the EID Historical Park since 1976 when the park was established. It is currently in need of foundation repairs that will cost $65,000. Windows, the antique windows are rotten and they will require repair, and the estimated cost is $20,000. And the doors, particularly the structure above the doors, is rotting, and the doors are going to fall down if we don't fix that. So that's estimated to cost $20,000. The foundation repair has been completed this fall, and it's done now, so we know exactly what that will cost. The window repairs and the doors and entrance are going to be done over the next year, but the exact cost of those two items has still not been determined, so those two estimates in round numbers are $20,000 each. We have just completed painting the elevator this summer as well, which cost us $56,000. So we paid for that, but we had a contribution of $25,000 from the County of Newell. I want to express our appreciation for that earlier this spring, as well as a grant from the Recreation Board towards the maintenance of the park itself. So although we paid $56,000, some of that was already funding from yourself. So we have the financial resources to do this work, but we also have plans and needs to continue to maintain the buildings and upgrade the buildings, including a schoolhouse, which is a one-room schoolhouse we have planned, which I'm pleased to say my mom, who's 94 years old, has donated to the park. But it has been the home of pigeons and other things for quite a long time, so it's in need of quite a lot of work. In any event, we have the financial resources to do this work, but if we pay for it out of our own pocket, then we're broke, and then we can't do anything else until we raise some more money. So we would appreciate any support we can get from the county towards this project. So if you have any other questions, I'd be pleased to try to answer them. I hope I provided as much information in the application or enough information for you to make a decision.
Thank you for that. Are there questions?
I'll just switch so that now I can see your faces there.
Go ahead, Holly, please.
I think it'd be good if Reese could explain the importance of the park to the community, perhaps.
Sure. Well, you know, I got on the park board a couple years ago, and it's been going fantastic. It's a great board and a great park. But we did, for painting this elevator, I had to go to Heritage Park just to match the elevator color. And our elevator's better than Heritage Park's. It's a prize, and we really should look after it. And yeah, so that's why I'm here.
Excellent, and thank you for the good work you do. I would agree that the park and the work that's done there is good for all of us and appreciated by all of us in the region, even though it's regional to your area, but it's an important history piece for all of us. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, so I'm a Tilly kid, and I'm not exactly sure the layout of Scandia, how it all worked. Is this the original site of the elevator?
Yes, it is. So it was built in 1927, right there on that spot. There were 2 elevators there originally in Scandia, and my dad hooked a cable to the other one and tore it down. So.
Go ahead, Amanda, please.
Just a little bit of clarification. So you do have the money to repair the elevator, correct? Like you said,
That's correct. We have cash. We have the cash to do that. That's correct. We'll have a very small bank account when we're done paying for this, but we have the cash.
Being that you have the cash and you're not putting it towards the elevator, what is that going to go towards then?
Oh, well, we have a capital budget I laid out for 10 years that includes another $40,000 on the elevator that we haven't paid for yet. So we have the $65,000, but we have another $40,000 that we would spend on the windows, or need to spend on the windows and the structure of the door. So those will have to be stalled for a bit if we don't get some help.
And you applied for the Alberta Heritage Grant, correct?
We are going to in February, so we don't know how much we're going to qualify for. We are eligible to apply for up to $100,000 through them, and we normally would apply for 50% of what we have spent. And it is our understanding, though, that will be decreased depending on the level of application. There's $1.5 million that's distributed throughout Alberta annually, and depending on the demand for those funds, we'll get something less than 50%. But optimistically, I'm going to say, 35, 40, I hope. But we had been cut back to 20% the last time we applied, but there was just a big year. So we're really hopeful that we can get that. Now, our goal is not to build up a cash bank account. Our goal is to continue as quickly as possible to do the things we want to do to enhance and improve the park.
How many people view the park in a year?
Pardon?
Your stats. How many people view the park?
Well, I don't have the exact number. It's not a large number of folks that visit the park. No, we have some school groups that visit, and we've had, groups from as far away as Calgary, Alberta, a busload of folks who were interested in Norwegian history, and so they came to Scandia. But it's not. And on our Earl Taylor Day last year, this past summer, we had how many people on that day? Probably 200? Yeah, 200. you know, that came on the annual event that we have, which is Earl Taylor, which is a day we dedicate to the founder of the park. Earl Taylor was a farmer, a bachelor farmer, who dedicated or donated his estate to the establishment of the park. He had collected old equipment, and then he needed a place to put it when he died. So he gave us his estate and the equipment. But it's not like we have a crowded thoroughfare going through there. We would like to see more. But the other thing that occurs is that although we have a registration form, we also have a lot of people who just walk through the park, or they just come to visit and they actually never, register or even speak to anyone. But it's not I wish it was larger.
Thank you. Dana has got a question or a comment. Go ahead.
I'm curious, have you ever reached out to Brooks Regional Tourism and to see if there's any kind of Travel Alberta grants that you might be entitled to, or are you part of their website, or do you know if you're involved with that at all?
We're part of their website, and so we are there, but I have not reached out to them to ask for any funds from them. I also haven't reached out to the local, sorry, I've lost the name of the Community Grant Association here. But we receive each year an annual amount of approximately $1,700, I believe, and that's the interest on some funds that were actually provided by a family from Jenner that donated the Scandia train station to us, and so they put $40,000 into that grant fund, and we get the earnings from that each year. So we get that on an automated basis each year.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I know with Travel Alberta, one of their main focus this year is agritourism. So it might be beneficial for you to reach out to Jamie McIntosh at Brooks Regional Tourism to see if there's anything available to you for that.
Yeah, thank you for that advice. I appreciate it. Yeah, I probably am not as thorough in terms of applying for every grant that shows up, but I will always try to do better.
Thank you. Holly, go ahead.
Just in follow-up to your question, Amanda, I wrote grants before Joe took it on, I think, or there was somebody between us, I can't remember. But that Historic Alberta grant is oversubscribed greatly, and we've been turned down completely on some years because there's so many historic buildings to be maintained and never enough cash. And in terms of use of the money, if you consider that every building at that park is made of wood, it's a lot of paint, it's a lot of repairs. Reese right now is volunteering his time to repaint the Jenner train station. And he thought it was a small job, and it's not a small job. So that's Reese's hobby in his spare hours, right, Reese?
That's right. I did. I made the mistake of volunteering for that because it looked easy from the road, and then I'm almost done. It's coming. It's looking fantastic. You should come to Scandia and have a look at it. But luckily, weather's cooperating. So I was there yesterday. I was there the day before. I'm getting a few hours in. I also have a business I'm trying to run, and my guys think that I've abandoned them, but it's worth it. It looks fantastic. So it's coming. If I can just add one other thing. There was a historian that was from the Alberta government just visiting. He's just overseeing our elevator renovations and stuff. And he was telling us that when that was built in 1927, that elevator, they had ours to do. And it's such a huge building, you'd think it would take years or something. And he said, no, those elevators, they went up super fast. And he said, and I thought this was super interesting, he said they had our elevator to do like in a month in May, and then they had one more to do in June because they had to hustle because those guys working on it had to get to the Calgary Stampede. And I thought, what a great story. So anyway.
Yeah. Thank you. The recommendation we have from our staff is that we refer this to our 2025 budget review process, and I think that would be I mean, if we were to approve that as part of the budget process, that would meet your needs in terms of some contribution towards your project as well in terms of time frame, right? You said you can complete this work immediately, but yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Or someone prepared to make a motion with regard to the recommendation, or do you want to defer it? Go ahead, Holly.
Well, I would actually go for option 2 to fast track it and pay it before the budget. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Lynette.
I guess mine was more of a question. On your application, it says urgent, or that's what's checked off, the urgency for this project. I'd like to know why you're considering it to be urgent.
Well, I can answer that in that the foundation under that building is sinking, and it's actually pulling down the building, and it's a safety factor as well. So the project is certainly urgent. I didn't consider it critical urgent because there was 3 check marks there. So one that said that we could stall the project for quite some time, or it was urgent, or it was critical. And this is not critical, but it's certainly urgent because it is sinking. So the foundation under the building that we've renewed was only 8 inches thick. So it's lasted since 1927, being only 8 inches thick, but the water and frost and a lot of things have got to it. The foundation under the main building, which we didn't have to do anything with, that goes down below frost, and that's very well done and is completely stable. But the buildings are moving relative to each other and tearing down one building is tearing the other one down.
Okay, thank you. Dan.
Just a quick thought. I love seeing these old elevators around. I think they look fantastic, and it's a kind of a symbol of what Alberta used to be. So I'm all in favor of maintaining our history, 100%. My slight concern is this part of the rec funding? I think maybe we should find somewhere else to pull this money out of, but I think we need to put this money towards maintaining this stuff. It is really important. So that's kind of where I'm going towards. I think we put it towards our budget and pay it. But you've said you have the money right now to cover it, and so it's not dire straits. If we approve it in the budget process, you'll still get your money, and we definitely should be putting money towards keeping this stuff going.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve this immediately. Any further comments or questions? Ready for the question? All in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3. Opposed? Okay, that's opposed. Do we have a further motion then? Go ahead, Adina.
Well, I make a motion that we refer this for consideration of the 2025 budget.
With the budget process? Okay, thank you. All in favor of that motion, please indicate. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. So this will be under further consideration. Thank you for your presentation this morning and for the good work you do out there on behalf of all of us that reminds us of the past and the present that we appreciate because of the past as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Right. Let's move to item number 9.1, our Ag Service Board update. Mr. Todd Green, you're with us. Take the mic, please. Welcome.
Good morning. That's a hard presentation to beat. There's a lot of history there, and I'm a little embarrassed to say I don't remember the last time I've taken the opportunity to walk through there, and a guy really should when it's so close to home. But anyways, some great news, I think. Just here for a quick update, keep everybody, entertained and in tune. We did our preventative spraying in Divisions 1 and 2 for Downey Brome, so let's all cross our fingers. We need a little bit of moisture to lock it in, and then hopefully it works to prevent some of our roadside downy brome infestations that have been taken off. I think I've seen versions 1 and 2 of what Donovan's put together for information on downy brome to go out to landowners. So hopeful to have, a wonderful Christmas present from the county, little information. So if anybody's out there just sitting on pins and needles, it's coming. We were lucky to work with a couple potato producers and disinfected their storage sheds. So that's a service we offer through, it's just one of our big roadside spray trucks. They're only fresh water in those spray trucks, so it's quite easy to hook up a wonderful handgun sprayer and disinfect their storages. We did work with a couple producers to set up some weed-free forage stuff. So we got about 500 straw bales that are coming into a plant just outside of Brooks. That'll be certified weed-free, and they'll be made into products that are sent all over the states. So we're excited that worked out. We are just kind of finishing up the last pass of Hamlet subdivision airport mowing. It does take wonderful Tina a little while to get through by herself what it takes 8 people to do in the middle of the summer. So thankfully, not a lot of grass growing this time of year. Roadside mowing should be done tomorrow. So if you have anything before we take the mowers apart and clean everything up, if you've got some areas that you think maybe need a touch up, we can burn out and do that pretty quick. But once they come apart, it's a real pain to put them back together. So we tend to put that off. Roadside seeding is kind of the next job. If anybody's been out Division 5 Castles area, there was some pretty nice construction that was done there. Me and Joe drove it on our way to, what an English major I am. Drove it on the way to Bazzano yesterday. That's a really nice looking construction job they did out there. I'm not sure who that was or how that went about, but really nicely done. We took Tina off Hamlet mowing, and got her into playground inspections and repairs. We had tabletop and a slide in Scandia that had been damaged over the years, and just got to a point where they were presenting some safety hazards. And as Tina is a trained inspector, she was able to find those things, and we got them done. It never fails to amaze me how much playgrounds cost. But they are replaced now, that slide and the tabletop, and we're excited about that. We do have FCC outstanding in the field coming up, so we don't really partner on this. We do pay for the kids' busing to get them to the Silver Sage, and FCC does the lion's share of the planning. We run some equipment over, and I spend the day usually working with the grade 11 classes that come. So there's kind of a dozen or so that show up, and we talk all things agriculture and have a great day. The South Region ASB conference is coming up. We're down to the details now. I'm so excited. I didn't talk to Jolene this morning on the way in, but we had about 50 people signed up there early this week. So, we're almost there, about halfway signed up to what we expect to show up. Some minor hiccups along the way, but Joe is one of our first presenters on the 29th, and we're pretty excited to have him. He sounded like, when I talked to him last week, he's got a lot of great stuff to bring up. So look forward to that. If you know of any other Ag Service Board members in the South, make sure you keep pumping the tires, because I think it's going to be a pretty great show. Outside of that, it's all winterized. So Emerson, all the buildings, all the irrigation, the equipment, all our rental sprayers, our sprayers that we use, and then as well as our irrigation here. So kind of the great tidbits that we're up to. There's all sorts of other things that I won't bore you with, but I'm happy to discuss all those at any time.
Thank you, Todd. Are there any questions? Holly, please.
Soon it's time to talk about coyotes, one of our favorite subjects. What are you hearing for coyote numbers in the county at the moment?
Well, honestly, I haven't heard much outside of just hearing coyotes. So is that what you were going to say?
You got it. Yeah.
They have been extremely talkative. I have the luxury of having some cows home right now that I have to water with a tank, and boy oh boy, when you get out there at 8 o'clock, it's almost creepy. They're loud. So outside of that, that's about all I've, anecdotally heard, but nothing major so far. How about you? Are you hearing lots?
Yeah, I think I am. That's why I was just curious if it's around the county or just a Scandia thing. Adina says Tilly's got lots too.
Yeah, Brian and Ed, they were combining a field, and there was one going back and forth, and then all of a sudden when they got really close together, there was like 20 scattered. Brian said it was like those videos you see with the boars, like, yeah.
Yeah, and the one thing I do know is the coyotes love to be in cornfields this time of year. So as those start coming off, we'll probably hear about them more, see them a little bit more. Rolling Hills, Tilly have quite a bit of corn left, and I assume Scandia as well. I haven't been there in a bit. But.
Okay, thanks, Todd. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Let's move to 10.3, policy review, policy 047-24. Lane, welcome. Service level for communal raw water irrigation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So this policy is coming back to council after having been reviewed by the committee of the whole in July. After that, there's been a few edits that were made to it. Definitions were added. We think that it's ready for approval. If there's any questions, we can address those at this time.
Thanks, Lane. Are there any questions or comments? Holly, go ahead.
Sorry, I just had one. In the last paragraph, I was wondering if it should be restated that all costs are borne by the user. I wasn't sure if it's clear that everything that existing is borne by the user. I just wasn't sure if it was clear when they're starting a new service that would be the same case.
So you're wanting it to be more clearly articulated then?
Yes, I thought that would be beneficial.
Okay. We can certainly add that as a final statement in there that all costs are borne by the beneficiaries of the system.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Suggestions? If not, we have a recommendation. Anyone prepared to make a motion? Lynette, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm prepared to make the motion with the suggested edit.
As recommended, thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried, thank you. Thanks, Lane. Let's, well, which, I'm just looking here. Yeah, well, you're 10.5, Lane. I think I was looking for the other item that you had, the short grass library system budget review.
So this is from the short grass library system. It's a short agenda item. This is an annual process that the board requires. They have presented their budget for 2025, and a motion of council is required to approve their budget. Really, there isn't anything much to be worried about. There was no increase provided for in 2024. They are proposing a 1.5% increase in 2025 and then projecting another 3% for 2026.
Thanks, Lane. Holly?
I will move option 1, approve the budget as submitted.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lane. Let's go back to item number 10.4. Stuart, you're here to go through that with us. A request for the purchase of 2025 self-contained breathing apparatuses for the Rosemary Fire Department.
Yes.
2024. Welcome.
Thank you. Reading Council, I appreciate you taking time for me this morning. This is a request that came from Rosemary for their 2025 budget. And it's for two new SCBA for their department. To give you a little history, back in 2014, a study was done, and the fire chiefs all agreed that we wanted to have the same SCBA throughout the whole County of Newell. It was decided back then that MSA was going to be our dealer of choice and or our SCBA of choice, and we have stuck with that throughout, and we're getting to almost end of life of all our SCBA in 2029. But Rosemary Fire had 4 sets that were purchased for them back in 2014, with an additional 4 sets that were still the old steel Scott packs. The reason that they didn't get 8 sets at that time was simply because they had the fire engine that would hold 4 sets, but their rescue truck was that old ambulance style rescue that didn't hold the SCBA all that well. So the steel packs were kept in cases and they were used for that purpose. Since the purchase of their new rescue truck in 2020, in 2023, Council approved the replacement of 2 of those 4 steel SCBAs, and that was done. And now I'm before you today for the 2025 budget, asking to purchase a little bit early. Simply because when I went out for pricing for the new SCBA, they came back with me saying that in October there was actually a deal on our SCBA. So the estimated cost to purchase these sets in 2025 is $45,053, which is quite pricey. But if we were to take advantage of this deal that they're offering us currently, there's a $26,000 savings, or $10,434. So I thought it prudent to come to council, because I'm always trying to find the best price for all this expensive equipment that I typically buy. So today I'm before you requesting that council approve this purchase so that we can take advantage of this awesome deal.
Thanks, Stuart. Are there any questions or comments? Dan, go ahead, please.
One quick question. You said that all of our packs are due up in 2029. Is that going to be like something we can phase in, or is that going to be like a one-time purchase?
That's one thing I've actually been talking with administration about, and starting maybe next year, or actually 26 to 29. I'd like to get to where we replace a haul a year and split it up over 9 years, rather than, or 2 hauls a year and split it up over 4.5 or 5 years. I think budget impact would be a lot less and would work out a lot better for us. We also have moved our SCBA up into our capital apparatus replacement, so that we can be socking some money away for that every single year, and then the budget impact isn't near as bad, because we've already been saving for that as we ask for it. So the reason for extending this over years, this year, all our SCBA was due for its last hydro test before it went out. So then I had to collect up every single piece of cylinder from every single fire hall and get it to Calgary and do it. Very big task, takes a long time, where if we could split that up over a few years, the task would be a lot less, and we'd be able to keep more BA at the fire halls when that happens. So that's the other reasoning to splitting it up, rather than buying 54 or 60 sets all at one time in 2029.
Thanks. Go ahead, Dan. Paul?
And with that, being that the masks don't line up on the 2 different types of packs, being a guy that wears one of those masks on occasion, I wouldn't want to have to accidentally be trying to put one onto the other. So I'll move that we approve this purchase of these 2 packs as recommended.
Thank you. More questions? Holly, go ahead.
Yeah, 2 questions. So does this mean your request in the budget November is $45,000 less because we're doing it early? And secondly, is there any value left in the ones that we're replacing?
Well, the ones that we're replacing now are steel Scott packs, and there really isn't a lot of value to them, other than we can continue to hydro test them. and use them for our airbags. And there are other uses for the cylinders. The packs themselves are well outdated. Like, we're talking these steel Scott packs that Rosemary has are probably purchased back in the 90s. So they're very old, but within the regulations with steel packs, as long as you hydrotest them every 5 years, you can keep using it for forever. The problem with the packs, not the cylinders, is they don't have the pass alarm on them. The pass alarm is what we use when we go into a structure fire, and if a firefighter falls down for more than 10, 15 seconds, the alarm goes off to say that something's happened to that firefighter. So it's definitely, the new packs are definitely a lot more safer for the firefighters, where these old ones don't, and we have to rely on battery operation of a slide on them, rather than when you turn your pack on now, everything is operational and works. So it's definitely a safety thing, and it's aged, so.
Okay, thank you. Follow?
Yeah, the budget question?
Oh, sorry, yeah. So the budget question, I have that in for Rosemary, and definitely, I'm not too sure how we would work that. I'm sure between myself and administration, it would fall off, right? It's a request for 2025, but now I'm asking that it just be bumped into this year so that I can purchase it for them, and away we go.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Are there any other questions? Ready for the question? All in favor, please indicate. Okay, that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart. Let's move to 10.6, the recreation agreement with the Village of Dutchess. Matt, please.
Yeah, I'll take this one away. So thanks to Councillors Kopp and Philpott, we met with the Village of Dutchess to review an update to our recreation services agreement. When we took a first kick at this can, we had included funding to the Dutchess Ag Society in with the agreement for the village. We're taking a new approach and splitting the Ag Society out in a separate agreement. We've attached all the financial information we could scrape up for your information here. A couple of the notable updates to this agreement. There is a new section 2.2 which enables an auto renewal of the agreement for additional 1-year terms once the initial 4 years expires. That provides a little bit of flexibility for administrations and councils who may have a hard time getting through the paperwork update, and it just continues. So if one of the parties to the agreement does not initiate a review by a certain date, the agreement will just continue for an additional 1-year term. Section 5.4E places authority with the Dutchess Recreation Parks and Culture Board to approve the details of any capital budget requests for the Ag Society. And Section 6.2, aligning our reporting requirements similar to what has been approved recently in other recreation agreements, and adding the addition of requiring a 5-year capital plan, so we can see what might potentially be coming at the county in terms of capital funding requests. There was a significant increase in terms of the percent value, what we're bumping up for the village. So from 62,000 in 2023 to 80,000 in 2024. So just over a 27% increase there. The contribution going to the Rec, Parks and Culture Board increases by 2%. Up to 5,400, and those funds are used to support community groups within that area. As mentioned, the IDP committee got together, reviewed the draft agreement, and you have the new and improved agreement in front of you for consideration for approval, and administration is recommending approval.
Thanks, Matt. Are there any questions? Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question in regards to the reduction of the commercial general liability limit from 5 million to 2 million. Was there a concern? Was there a significant, was it a significant cost to them to reduce it? Liability limits usually are on their way up rather than going down. So what was the concern there?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so we aligned the limit there with all the other agreements that we have in place. We have reviewed with our reps at RMA, and to not disadvantage one group over another, we've recommended the decrease to 2 million to stay consistent.
Thank you. Go ahead, Greg.
Was there a significant cost difference?
I don't know that there was a significant cost difference. We did not look at that specifically.
Thanks. Ellen, go ahead.
Just reason if there was a significant reason why it was increased over 17,000?
Yeah, so we did crunch some numbers looking at the period of the initial agreement, 2020, 21, 23. If you look at attachment 3, I believe it is, the recreation net cost analysis, when the original agreement was entered into, the philosophy was let's share costs 50-50 based on a rear view mirror look into what costs had been in the past. Those were fixed contributions inflated by 2% over the term of that agreement. And if you're looking at that attachment, you'll see towards the bottom, second line from the bottom, a variance, which shows the difference between what a 50% contribution would have been. So the first column there in 2020, 50% of net cost worked out to 62, call it $63,000. And the county's fixed contribution was $5,900. So we were under by about $3,900. And each year you can see that kind of increased over the period of that initial agreement. 2023, we were short by about $17,000. So over that first 4-year term, the county under contributed about $37,000 if you were looking at it to be shared at a 50-50 basis. Costs, utilities, the recreation service is not cheap, and it experienced inflation just like every other line of service there.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Any other? Oh, Holly, go ahead.
Just when Bazzano brought their capital project list to us, it included, I forget what the thing is called, but that little shell thing you do music in, you know, that Dwayne Perkins wanted to do in Brooks. What are those things called? Amphitheater. And they wanted 50%, and we went and looked, and a point was raised that we only fund county new builds at 25%. So I'm wondering if our agreements need to include that any new projects would only be funded at 25%, so everyone is aware that it's not a 50% match for those kinds of projects.
Thanks, Holly. Matt, do you have a comment on that?
I think that's a valid consideration to suggest that edit.
Okay. Thanks. Greg.
And that would be assuming that the repairs and things would still be at 50%, but new builds would be 25%. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Anyone else? Someone ready to make a motion? Amanda, please.
I'll make that motion with the 25% new builds.
And the option 1 as recommended? Yeah.
Option 1, yes.
2. Oh, as amended, that's right. Option 2, thank you.
Oh, pardon me, option 2.
2, yeah, sorry. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried, thank you. Let's move on to item number 10.7, recreation agreement. Go ahead, Matt.
All right, so from the one into the next, this would be your updated agreement between the county, village, and Duchess Ag Society. Looks very similar to the other agreements which council has approved recently with Rolling Hills and Rosemary Ag Societies. A few of the notable additions, again, section 2.2 with the auto renewal of the agreement for additional 1-year terms. Sections 3.5 and 3.6, which formalizes the annual capital funding commitment, which has been followed in practice where each of the parties to the agreement fund a third of the capital cost after any grants and donations have come off the top. So there is sharing of any grants that come in amongst the parties, and giving that authority to the Dutchess Recreation Parks and Culture Board authority to consider and approve Ag Society capital budget requests. That would be limited to a maximum of $60,000 per party per year, and that recognizes the capacity constraints that the Village of Dutchess has asked that we put in here. And again, the reporting requirement looking for the 5-year capital plan from the Ag Society. And just to give a shout out to Morgan Crossland and his crew on the Ag Society, they've been very disciplined in their use of the funds. There is not a significant increase that they have looked for. If you look in their financial statements, their financial position has improved. It's a good news story falling out of the services coming from the Ag Society in Dutchess. They're doing some good work up there.
Thank you. Any questions? Someone prepared to make a motion? Lynette, please go ahead.
I'll make the motion for option 1.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Um, 10.8 is our councillor payment sheets. Any comments on that from the Dan?
The only comment I got is that your information disappeared from the information we were given, so we have no corrections listed for you because we don't have any information for you. But I'm waiting to hear back to see where that disappeared to. So anything that might change from your information will likely show up next month.
Okay, I've apparently been canceled. We'll look into that, yeah. But I can't get into the program, so we'll figure that out. Thanks, Dan. Do we need a motion to approve the councillor payment sheets? Holly, go ahead.
I will motion approval.
All in favor, please indicate. It's carried. Thank you. Request for functions of council. Are there any? Any requests for functions of council? Seeing none, we'll move forward to item number 10.9.1, Economic Growth Forum, October 24th and 25th. That's just an information item, or is there a decision there? Potentially a function of council, I guess. Who's planning to attend that, or what's your pleasure on that? Pardon me? Go ahead.
It's on a regular council day.
Right. 24th is a council day, so. And that is happening in Medicine Hat. Anyone want to take any direction with regard to that? Going to pass on it? Okay. We're good. Any other functions of council? Seeing none, we'll carry on. Municipal, okay, we are expecting Cole Steinley at 1 o'clock. What's your pleasure if we conclude before, pardon me?
It is 12.
It's 12 o'clock for lunch. You want to break for lunch? We'll do that right now. Yeah.
suitable piece of land to lay these tubes down. So we were looking at putting it, I guess it would be to this, on the southwest corner, kind of adjacent on the east side of the Tilly campground. We thought that might be a little too close to the public. And other suitable parcels of land weren't readily available, so your county staff are looking into an area that they can put it in. Long story short, that site would have to be prepped. It'd have to be maybe used on a current landowner's land, and so we're pushing the project off until 2025 because of that. The 40 acres that were set aside to do land application of sludge, they were going to do this 4 small anaerobic cells, desludge them, apply it this fall on that 40 acres. The landowner has since gotten back to us and said that that doesn't work for them anymore at this time of year. So that portion that we thought that we could continue with at least is no longer being able to be done this fall. So the entirety of the project is pushed off till spring. But like I said, that's been kind of, there's been new updates back and forth on that just about every day for the last week or so. But that's the latest we have as of this morning. So looks like next year we'll be able to tackle it. Our fall preventative maintenance that we do for the hamlets, including lift station cleanouts, distribution system flushing, and fire hydrant winterization, will be occurring next week. We do that every spring and fall, and we've got it booked for next week to do that. Sample hydrants, if you recall, we've installed some sampling hydrants that we use to take our potable water samples so that we don't have to access people's homes. And the first 5 that we installed were out at Lake Newell Resort just because there are no businesses for us to access. Alberta Environment wants to get a good sample throughout the entire distribution system, so they don't want you just going to the same place every time. We were used to just use it at the pump house, take samples from there, but they wanted sampling throughout. So we installed 5 sample hydrants in and around Lake Newell Resort in the past. We've continued to do that. We installed 3 more in Patricia and 1 more in Rolling Hills on top of the one that was currently there. So that has all been completed this year, and so we have those new sample hydrants available to us in those communities. I will be going to get a quote for the newest, latest and greatest style of sampling hydrants from the company that we get it from. They've got a new model out that they just engineered. I'm going to get a price on that and a price for installation so that we can go ahead and do the remaining hamlets so that they're all taken care of. So that'll be happening in 2025. And finally, an update on the Lake Newell Resort lift station upgrade. For starters, we had to address some safety issues before we get any contractors on site to be able to do work. So that was hatch lids that needed to be reinstalled properly. We had a corroded ladder that was no longer functioning, that needed to be replaced. And then midway point inside the cell itself, or the clear well, we had grading in there, and it had to be fabricated because it was corroding as well. So TCB Manufacturing is doing that, and they're coming in to install all those safety upgrades Tuesday, October 15th, so Tuesday of next week. Once that's done, we'll be able to continue on with the actual upgrading project. There has been a couple, what we noticed is it's no longer in the upgrade phase, it's kind of moved over to repair and maintenance. We had a check valve fail over the last couple weeks. So we ordered new parts. We're gonna get Porter Tanner, a company that does that kind of work. They're doing some work in the city. They're gonna come replace those because it's no longer part of the upgrade portion of this project. It's needed to be done right away, and it's more in a maintenance and repair situation. So they're going to be doing that as soon as the safety upgrades are done. As far as the quotes that we've been getting, we've got 4 electrical quotes.
We're just waiting for the very last one to come in with pricing on it. But they're all local companies, save for Xylem, but the other three are local companies. So I think we have a competitive bid for sure, but once we get all those prices in, we'll be able to award the electrical controls for the electrical upgrade. And the other part that's been a little bit troublesome is the mechanical upgrades quotes. We've got one from TCB locally. I've reached out to no fewer than 4 other companies, and they're either too busy or don't want to supply us with a quote, not interested in the project. So it's been tougher to get mechanical quotes, but we do at least have one from a local company. So depending on where I can get with that in the next couple weeks, we might have to just resort to the one that we do have. But that's a complete update on that project. It's a little slower than I'd hoped, but it is what it is, and that's where we're at. That's the extent of my report. If there's any questions, more than happy to answer them.
Thanks, Cole. Are there questions? Lynette, go ahead.
In the very bottom, it says new membrane modules should arrive in October. Can you tell us about that?
So I usually don't update on internal NRSC stuff, but it is kind of a big deal. That is the backbone and basically the whole premise of how our water treatment facility works in the County of Newell. We are a membrane filtration plant. It's been 14 years since we went online, and those membrane modules have a shelf life. Are getting closer to the end of that shelf life, but by no means are we pressed for time on that. We're doing it a little earlier than absolutely necessary, but I've gone through a procurement process and vetted out 3 different vendors. I ended up going with the original vendor of the manufacturer of the membranes we currently have right now, just because they've lasted so long. They initially thought maybe 10 years. We're at 14 years and still could probably go a bit longer. So I've purchased them. They should be arriving here in the next couple weeks. And then we've got an installation date of January 20th. So it's a pretty big milestone and project that we haven't come across yet. So I just put it in there for information's sake, just so you know.
Thanks, Cole. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
The work you're doing. Mr. Mark, our Director of Municipal Services. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Reports in front of you. Highlights from that. Officers, a little bit slower month. 9 warnings, 6 tickets after conducting 18 investigations. Attended conference for emergency services personnel on social disorder and urban crime. Really ties around the whole safe communities and neighborhoods matter and addressing, you know, the substance abuse, the mental health, and encampments, and that's something more that our urban neighbors are experiencing. However, when our urban municipalities deal with an encampment, what the result is now is those people are moving outside of the urban municipality. So thankful where we are, and we're not subject to too much of that at this point in time in a way, but the training and education for our officers is key in that. So, and then most importantly behind it all is the partnerships that we have with the RCMP and other enforcement agencies in helping with those. So it's that time of year again. The fall is upon us. The leaves are falling off the trees. Matter of time. Don't want to talk about the white stuff, but the plow trucks are all getting rigged up in the shop with fleet services assisting our truck drivers on that. The last new grader showed up, so it's been upfitted and is ready and in service. And the dually tandem axle flatbed trailer was received the last week of September and getting put into service. Grader operators keeping up with what the weather throws at them. Had some rain events through the month of September. Worked some overtime to get roads restored to typical driving conditions for motorists. think that helped. It's got lots of silage going on right now, so they're tending to those kind of matters with deteriorating road surfaces with the increased traffic, but doing what they need to do and trying to get their winter rounds in before freeze up happens. Truck drivers gravel resurfacing program, they completed 100% of that project, so small update there from the 68% previous reporting period, and just tending to some spot gravel locations that they've identified outside of the planned work for the year, so trying to get that done. And then they'll be ready for snow and transitioning into the stockpiling program. Maintenance operators, you can see they've been working on various activities, also taking on a lot of the fall activities of catch basin cleaning in the urban areas with storm sewer systems. Getting snow fence installed is on the list, and other work. What else have I got here? Winter on call actually starts today for our operators. That's typical practice for most services providing winter snow plowing. Really pertains to our paved roads with our truck drivers. Grader operators will be put on standby as the weather kind of dictates, but just ensures that we've got the plan in place and staff are at the ready. Engineering, success story finally. A little bit late in the year for anything to happen, but Tilly Landfill administration had a meeting, finally got the blessings out of the province to proceed with that work. So we'll be getting things together to move on that in due time. Blocks 1 and 4 Lake Newell Resort under review with MPE Engineering to look at what kind of strategies we implement down there to redo their curb gutter and asphalt, and what is the best plan of action. Range Road 15-0, so this is going past MCF feeders and coming down to Highway 542. It's part of the truck route that was originally studied back in the early 2010 period, and that's being worked on along with the budgetary component for 2025. You heard from Cole about the Tilly Lagoon desledging project. So deferred until next year, and that actually buys us some time to find new strategy to work with the geotubes, get proper sighting of them, and be able to carry out the work. Kinbrook Connection Pathway Partnership, construction continues. They got most of the subgrade work done, so hopefully they'll start laying the granular base course down for the remaining 6 kilometers of pathway, and then asphalt to follow after that. So time for me is being pressed with weather, but we have good weather in the forecast for the next couple of weeks. I anticipate asphalt will get done this year. Some benches and other amenities with sunshades may get done this year. Otherwise, trailhead improvement here at the office and some of those other things will be deferred until 2025. And we'll be working with the contractor on how we manage that moving forward, because we did not expect it was going to be rolling over to be a 3-year program. So. Lake Newell Resort Pathway Alignment, actually the last meeting that we had with council, we secured the final component of land. So just got an adjusted engineer's estimate behind that project. Want to have a discussion with the CAO, and we can likely move to tender on that to see whether we're still working within the same budget that we advertised under the local improvement before any decisions have to be made. And of course, 2025 interim budget was submitted as per finance team's deadline. Hopefully things work out. We don't have to meet with them too much and get things cleaned up for you. And yeah, I think our field day with council was a success. We had great tours of a few facilities, good camaraderie along the route. Council got out to see a lot, although it was raining, so the windows didn't always cooperate with you being able to see everything, but I think it was a success again for another year. So. If there are any questions of council, I'll do my best to answer.
Thanks, Mark. Are there questions? Holly.
It's been a long time since I've heard about the gravel study. Do we have an update?
As in the gravel resource? Yes, and that will be an in-camera discussion eventually if we don't hit it with the committee of the whole meeting. We don't have it exactly in the budget at this time because we need to strategize how we want to introduce it to council and what opportunities we want to present to secure the future for the region.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you. A motion to accept the municipal director's report. Lynette, all in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Mark. There being no post-agenda items, I think we could entertain a motion to go in camera, right? Anyone? Ellen, all in favor that we move in camera? That's carried. Thank you. Is there any,
Sorry, who moved out of camera?
Craig? Okay, is there any further direction for council? I think there's some motions to be made. Lynette, have you got a motion for us?
My motion would read that council directs administration to negotiate an update fire protection services agreement with the Village of Rosemary through the Rosemary ICF IDP committee that transfers governance and operational control of the Rosemary Fire Department to the county.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Ready for the question? All in favor, please indicate. It's carried. Thank you. Holly, have you got a motion?
I do. That subject to Alberta Infrastructure agreeing to the proposed commencement and term date edits in the lease and sublease agreements, Council allocates the uncommitted balance of $167,453.99 from the Regional Enhancement Fund towards covering the costs of CDC South initiatives, including goods and services required for planning, marketing, and incorporating a not-for-profit to oversee the CDC South, and further, that administration secures a contracted project coordinator to undertake these initiatives and apply to grant programs that may be available to provide additional support.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. And Dan, please.
I got a motion as well that council direct administration to negotiate a new collective agreement with CUPE Local 1032, ensuring fair compensation with a reasonable cost of living increase over the term of the agreement, while considering fiscal sustainability and alignment with the county's budgetary constraints.
Thank you. Are there is there any discussion with regard to the motion? All in favor, please indicate. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Are there any questions online for the council today? Seeing none. I accept a motion from Adina to adjourn the meeting, and I'll do just that. Meeting adjourned. Thank you for your attention today.